Good evening and welcome to Shannonside Northern Sound. This is Johnny O'Keefe here, and we are doing our Signposts programme, and I've decided to take a look at one of the streets in my hometown of County Cavan, i.e. Farnham Street. Now obviously I can't do the history of the street by myself, so standing here beside me is Dr. Brendan Scott. Brendan, thank you very much for taking the time out on this lovely evening to join us here on this programme.
Yeah, well, the original cathedral was built kind of probably around where we're standing here, and it was built here in the 1820s. And then when they decided to build a bigger, fancier cathedral in the 1930s, they decided to build further up, and so they take down the church, the cathedral that was here, stone by stone, and rebuilt it out in Ballyhaise. So waste not, want not.
And I think I remember it was my grandfather saying that it was his grandfather or our father helped bring the stones on horse and cart the whole way out the road.
Yeah, can you imagine how long that would have taken?
It would have taken just a while. We're going to walk on down here now, and across from the Cathedral of St Patrick in Farnham, you have the Church of Ireland Church.
Yeah, the parish church. That was opened on Christmas Day 1815. It's a lovely church. A lot of the buildings around Cavan would be sandstone, and a lot of it would have come from a quarry out in Lat, just out the road. So you'll see a lot of the building, like the town hall and things like that there is using sandstone as well. And so the original parish church was when the abbey was shut down during the Reformation in the 16th, 17th centuries. That became the Church of Ireland Parish Church for Cavan. And then it wasn't until, as I say, 1815 then that this one was built and opened, as I say, on Christmas Day 1815.
I've just remembered something from my childhood. We're going to get down to St Phelim's Boys' School in just a couple of minutes' time. It's another couple of 100 yards down the road. But the library wasn't always here. But the statement that was outside the building previous, which we're going to talk about in just a second, is these two trees. Because when you were walking home from school, from St Phelim's School, you'd come up here, you'd go in the gates, and there was a fight every day to get the conkers off these trees for the war that would happen the next day in school.
Yes. Funny, actually, I collect conkers for my daughter, and I often pick them up here.
Yeah.
And I'd often get some in the university grounds in Maynooth. I always get them here as well. I mean, this would have been the site formerly of the Protestant Hall, which was known as the Protestant Hall. It was a lovely building, but it kind of gotten into sort of disuse and poor enough shape, I believe. And when the library originally was one of these buildings just further down, which would have been the site, I think, of the original Farnham Arms Hotel. It was just this block of buildings just here, and so it was quite a small, if you remember that library, it was quite a small little place. And I mean, look at this place now, like, it's absolutely fantastic. And when this library was opened, then the statue of Lord Farnham here was put back here. This statue here behind you, he was killed in a train crash in Abergale in North Wales in 1867, I think, and it was a massive explosion on the train, and his body was so badly disfigured, as were many, that they could only tell them apart. I think he had a wristwatch with the Farnham crest on it. So I often wonder, what if someone has stolen the watch? It wasn't him.
You wouldn't know who it was.
No, you wouldn't know who it was. But they were all buried in one mass grave in Wales. And so when he died, like you say, 1867, on the far side of the road, there used to be the Farnham Gardens, and that statue was put up over on the far side in 1871. The statue was paid, cost about £1,000, which in 1860s, a lot of money, and it was paid for by the tenantry. It always say the heartbroken tenantry. I'd say they were heartbroken when they saw the bill. But that statue stood originally over here in the Farnham Gardens, and it's moved around a few times since, and it's here now in front of the library.
When you're walking down Farnham Street, and another place where you do see tourists, because this man's name is it's etched everywhere basically. If you're listening to us in the other counties that we broadcast to, if it's Leitrim, Longford, Roscommon, Monaghan, explain to us what that little plaque outside that house says.
Yeah, that's about Percy French. I think it says the balladeer, singer, artist, lived there in 1881 to 88. He was originally from Roscommon, married a girl in Cavan called Moore, She died, I think, in childbirth not long after. He married again after that, but he lived in that house for about 7 years, and he worked. He was an inspector on kind of civil projects, the drainage and that sort of thing. He was interested in, but really his real love, as we know, was music and art and songwriting. And obviously, he wrote "Come Back, Paddy Riley" to Ballygym stuff is the big one in Cavan, of course. But Are You Right There, Michael? Are You Right? And all those sort of things. And he would have performed in the Protestant Hall here as well many times. And they say as well, the tennis courts are still up here.
Yeah,
behind.
I was just going to get to that. The tennis courts, Cavan Tennis Club behind it.
Yeah, French was very involved in that as well. They reckon he lined out the original courts. Now, whether he did or not, I don't know. But he certainly was interested in that sort of thing.
One of my memories, first of all, as we look across, is that I think it was 91, 92, and I'm probably totally wrong in that, but there was a queue coming all down the side of that building and right the whole way up Farnham Street, because I remember we were sent to the babysitters because my parents were going to the premiere of the Playboys.
Oh yeah, my sister was in that. She was an extra. She used to cycle over from Belturbet over the Red Hills to be in that. Yeah, that was a big thing, wasn't it? Yeah, sure, the old Magnet Cinema was there, and sure, we all have memories of the Magnet. It was legendary. The little bubbles that used to go across the screen, do you remember those?
Yeah.
And I remember I met someone, I went to college in Galway, and she said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Cavan." She says, "You used to have that cinema with the bubbles." I thought that happened in every cinema. Apparently not. But yeah, so again, the old cinema there, and then you have the town hall there as well, which was opened in 1910, was was designed by a guy called William Scott, who's no relation, and it was set up again to be used by the town corporation, or whatever the name, the UDC probably, whatever it was, the Urban District Council. They would have been working in there, and again, sandstone from Lat, so they're quarrying very nearby.
Us as youngsters trying to figure out what were the stories, what was true and what wasn't true. For instance, I was told years ago that one of these trees outside St. Phelim's National School used to be the hanging tree, because St. Phelim's National School wasn't always a school.
No, well, the site of it was the prison. Now, the prison was originally across the road where the number 1 school is.
Right.
And then it moved over to here. And again in the 19th century. And so there was originally just a men's prison, but then there was a women's prison added on as well. And then the building that's up at the very back, which is Cana House, which is where Cavan Genealogy has a centre in there, that was the church, or the prison warden's, the governor's house. That was up there. So the executions, I mean, maybe they did use the tree every now and again, but they would have had a gallows, and I'd imagine the executions usually happen near enough the front of that drive,
right,
that you go up now. So I mean, there'll be plenty of bodies buried up around there, and so if there's ever a prime place for haunting, you'd imagine that's probably one of them. But yeah, so I always think it's funny as well that that what had been a prison then becomes a school.
Yeah.
Because no irony there, of course.
I'm looking up at my old classroom in 6th class, and I can see it there because I used to sit just beside that window. But in the school, the memories that I have, before the school was done up, actually, wooden floors. And in the playground out the back, there was all these, marked over, and we were told, or we used to think, that they were tunnels. Yeah. And we were always told that, oh yeah, if you were in prison here, you were put in the tunnel, and it would go the whole way up the other side of the town to Gallows Hill. Yeah. Is there any truth behind that?
Well, there's always this talk about these tunnels and all these different places. If the Irish were building so many tunnels, we were like moles or something. I don't know how we managed to build so many tunnels. I don't know. You hear these stories. I haven't seen any proof of them now. So show me the proof, and if someone can bring me up one of those tunnels, that'll prove it to me. But I can't. I'd take it with a pinch of salt.
And once again, school memories come flooding back to me, because when you're being picked up from school and you're never being picked up late, you go in here, you throw the bags down, you'd have a wee run around, but we called it the Old Abbey.
Yeah.
Is that the correct kind of way to say it?
Well, it would have been a Franciscan friary, which is a slight difference, but pretty much that. I mean, this is the original part of the town. This is where the Gilla Isa O'Reilly in 1300 donated land to the Franciscans to set up a friary here, and as such, it's the oldest part of the town, really. And like the bell tower that's there now is later. There would have been nothing. Like the original buildings would have been wooden. There wouldn't have been anything that sort of survived. But again, it was destroyed a number of times during the 15th and 16th centuries. And in the early 17th century, the provost of the town, kind of the mayor, he lived here. He would have lived on the grounds, because there would have been a church, and then there would have been the living quarters for the Franciscans. And so this guy, who's the provost, is living in the living quarters of the place at the time. And so then this is used then as the Church of Ireland parish church, because the parish Ernie didn't have a parish church, and so that was used then, as I say, up until 1815, when they moved up to the top of Farnham Street then.